this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make these crochet nesting baskets. What I'm going to do with this tutorial is actually talk you through the pattern. I would highly recommend that you use the link in the description box below to this pattern, which is a free download, and print it out so as we're going through you can follow along with the pattern. Particularly if you're not confident with reading patterns, this will really help with your pattern reading skills. So as I say, I will leave a link in the description box below. You will also need a pair of scissors, a darning needle, a 5mm hook, which is a US size H, and a ruler. For this particular pattern we are using Lily, Sugar and Cream, and this colour is Potpourri. And then before we hop into the tutorial, don't forget, if you like my videos then give them a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel to keep up to date with all of my latest ones. Also turn on that subscription bell to be notified of when my videos go live. So if we have a look at what we need, the material section of this pattern, you can see that it says that we need 1 cone of Lily, Sugar and Cream. They have used yellow, but I'm using Potpourri, and 1 cone will make all 3 baskets. It tells you the size hook to use, so as I said, it's size H or 5mm, and if you find that your tension is too tight, then use a larger hook. If it's too loose, then use a smaller hook. So change it up as you need it. The other thing that will come in really handy is a stitch marker, so I'm just using one like this. And then you'll notice at the bottom here that it shows you all of the abbreviations for the terminology that they will be using. The best way to find out whether your pattern is written in UK terms or US terms is to look for if it says single crochet. So if it says single crochet, then that is a US term. If you are working in UK terms, which I am, so I'll convert this into UK terms as we're going along, you might want to just go through and just change or highlight here where it says SC along the whole of your pattern, just so that you don't get confused. Okay, so let's just have a look at this first part of the pattern here. It tells you the measurements for the small version, the medium and the large version. I'm going to make the large version today and then indicate where you would stop for certain rounds for the small and the medium. I just think that would be the easiest way to do it. You will also notice when it talks about the gauge that it is saying that we use 2 strands of yarn and work together. So it does tell you here that the instructions are written for the smaller size, but then it also has some information for the medium and large size. And then notes here for the baskets, it says baskets are worked with 2 strands of yarn together, which we have just discussed, and I'm going to show you in just a moment. And then it also says that we're going to join all rounds with a slip stitch to the first single crochet, which would be double crochet. So again, I'll show you how to do that. So first of all, I'm going to show you how to prepare your yarn, and then we'll get started with our first round. Okay, so here's my yarn cone, and I have actually used some of this already, so it's not as full as it once was. What you want to do is just take the label off first of all, and then because we want to be using 2 strands of yarn together, we want to take the one that is coming from the outside, and then we want to take one that is coming from the inside. So ordinarily this would be pushed in more when you first get it, but you will find a little section just here where the yarn is grabbed into. What you want to do is push the cone from the top and then pop it out the bottom, just like so. And the way that we're going to be working is we'll be using the end from the outside and also the end from the inside. So as you're working, you just want to stop periodically and then just loosen the yarn, so pull it from around the edge and then also from the middle. You'll find that it actually comes out easier from the middle. I actually leave this on my lap as I'm working, and I will just unravel it as I am going along. So go ahead and prepare your yarn and meet me back in just a moment. So first of all, you want to begin by creating your slip knot, and you can use whichever method you prefer with this. Go ahead and grab your hook and insert your hook into that slip knot. So I'm going to pull up on screen what the instructions are just to make this a little bit easier. So what the pattern says first of all is with 2 strands of yarn, chain 4, join with a slip stitch to the first chain to form a ring. So we're going to grab the yarn and pull it through. It can be a little bit tricky because this is a cotton yarn, so you might just have to be really aware of your tension. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, and yarn over, pull through. So we have just chained 4. We're now going to go ahead and insert our hook into that very first chain, grab the yarn and pull through both loops on the hook. So now we have our foundation, and this is the centre circle that we're going to work into. So the first round tells us to chain 1, so yarn over and pull through, and then it tells us to do 8 double crochets into the ring and join. So double crochet is a UK term. In the US that's known as a single crochet. Remember, the pattern is written in US terms. I am working in UK terms. So we're going to go ahead and insert our hook into the very centre circle, grab the yarn and pull it through. You'll have 2 loops on the hook, technically 4, but we'll just class this one as one collectively and the other. Yarn over and then pull through all of the loops on the hook. So that's 1, and again, 2, 3, 4, and just notice that I am holding this loose end here, and I'm holding it down onto the circle so that I can crochet it in as we go along. So we'll go 5, 6, I'm just going to leave that down now, 7 and 8. So we now have our 8 double crochets, and we want to slip stitch into the very first stitch. So that is just here. Insert your hook underneath that stitch, grab the yarn and pull it through, and then pull straight through again. Now what you want to do here is take your stitch marker and mark the end of that round. So just put your stitch marker into that very last stitch, and then we're going to move on to round 2. So round 2 tells us to chain 1, 2 double crochets into each double crochet around, and then join. Where it says 16 double crochets at the end, that is indicating how many stitches you will have in that round. So we want to go ahead and do 2 double crochets into this next stitch along. So 1 and then 2, so 2 into that stitch. And then again, 1 and 2. So that's 4 stitches we have so far, 5 and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and then our last 2 stitches go where our stitch marker is, so I'm going to take that out and then do 15 and 16. We're going to find where our first stitch was from this round, so just here, and slip stitch into there, and take our stitch marker and mark the last stitch from that round. So we're now on to round 3, and it tells us to chain 1. Now you'll notice that you'll see an asterisk, and what that indicates is that you're going to repeat the pattern between those asterisks. So it says 2 double crochet in the next double crochet, and then 1 double crochet in the next double crochet. So what that means is we're going to do 2 double crochets into this next stitch, 1 and 2, and then 1 double crochet into the next one. And we're going to repeat that all the way round. So it's a sequence of stitches that we're going to repeat all the way round, and we'll end up with 24 stitches. So again, we'll repeat that, 2 double crochets into the next stitch, 1 and 2, and then 1 double crochet into the next stitch, 1, and repeat again, 2 double crochets, 1 and 2 into that same stitch, and then 1 double crochet. So go ahead, pause the video and repeat that same sequence until you get to your last stitch, which will be where this stitch marker is. Pause the video and meet me back in just a moment. Okay, so I've just worked my way around. I am about to do my last stitch into the last stitch from the round, so just 1 double crochet in there, and then I'm going to join to my very first double crochet from this round, so it's just here, insert the hook and slip stitch to join. Then going to go ahead and take my stitch marker and mark that last stitch so that I know where to finish my next round. So this next section of the pattern is where it changes slightly. So for the small version you would do this set of instructions, but for the medium and large versions you would move on to this set of instructions. What I'm going to do is move on to this bit of set of instructions, but I hope that this video will kind of give you the knowledge and the skills that you need in order to complete this round. It's basically the same as what we have just done, but you'll do 2 double crochets into the first double crochet and then 1 double crochet into the next 5 stitches. So for me, and if you're following along with me, we're going to move on to this 4th round just here, and we're going to do a chain 1, 2 double crochets into the next double crochet. Remember, I'm working in UK terms, so converting this, and then 1 double crochet into the next 2 stitches, and we're going to repeat that all the way round until we have 32 stitches. So now we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to do 2 double crochets into this next stitch, 1 and 2, and then 1 double crochet into the next 2 stitches. So that's the first one. We'll move across to the next stitch and do our second one. So it's a 4 stitch repeat here that we're doing. So now we're going to repeat that again. 2 double crochets into the next stitch, 1 and 2, and 1 double crochet into the next 2 stitches. So 1 and 2. So go ahead, pause the video, work that same sequence, 2 double crochets into the first stitch and then 1 double crochet into the next 2 stitches. Pause the video, work your way round until you get to this last stitch, and I'll show you how to move on to the next row. I've worked my way round. I'm about to do my last stitch, just where this stitch marker is. And I'm going to connect my last stitch to my first stitch with a slip stitch. I'm going to mark the end of my row again, and then we'll move on to the 5th round. So what we want to do here is chain 1, and this time the pattern repeat is going to be 2 double crochets into the next stitch and then 1 double crochet into the next 3 stitches. So we're working in a 5 stitch repeat this time, and we're going to end up with 40 double crochets. So 2 double crochets, 1 and 2 into that first stitch, and then we're going to do 3 double crochets, 1, next stitch, 2, next stitch, 3. So we'll repeat that again, 2 double crochets, 1 and 2, and then 1 double crochet into the next 3 stitches, 1 2 and 3. So go ahead, pause the video, work your way around to your stitch marker and meet me back in just a moment. Okay, so I am just going to do my last stitch in this row 5. And then I'm going to join my last stitch to my first stitch with a slip stitch and mark the end of that round. So if you're doing the medium version, you will stop at this point, skip the next round and then come back to me. But we're going to add one more round so that we can make this particular one a little bit larger. So now what we're going to do is chain 1, and we're going to do 2 double crochets in the first stitch and then 1 double crochet into the next 4 stitches. So this pattern repeat is going to be 6 stitches in total. So we'll go into that first stitch and do 2 double crochets, 1 and 2, and then 1 double crochet into the next 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3 and 4. We shall repeat that again, so 2 double crochets into the next stitch, 1 and 2, and then 1 double crochet into the next 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So go ahead, repeat that pattern repeat all the way round, 2 double crochets in 1 stitch and then 1 double crochet into the next 4 stitches until you have 48 stitches in total. Pause the video and meet me back at your stitch marker. Okay, again I've come to the end of my round. I'm going to do my last stitch where my stitch marker is, and I'm going to join my last stitch to my first stitch with a slip stitch. Okay, so here's where we are going to start turning this into a bowl. So at the moment this is our base, and then we're going to work up the side of the basket. So you again want to mark your stitch marker, and if you're doing a small version of this basket, your rounds are going to consist of 28 stitches. If you're doing the medium version, your rounds will consist of 40 stitches, and if you're doing the large version like me, your rounds will consist of 48 stitches. But the stitches that we are doing are exactly the same, it's just the amount that's going to be different. So let's have a look at the pattern. So what it says here is chain 1 and working into the back loops only, 1 double crochet into each double crochet around and then join. So as I say, this is where we're going to be actually creating the shape of the bowl. So you want to chain 1 as it suggests, and then we're going to work into the back loops only of this stitch. So as you turn your stitches onto the side, or your work onto the side, you see these V's all the way across. If you're going into that stitch like we have been doing, you will have 2 loops on your hook. It looks like you have 2 sections there. So this time we are just going into the back loop, so the one that's furthest away from you, and then do your double crochet the same as you have been doing. And what this will do is it will create that curve in your work, so your basket will actually start to work up like this. So again, go into the back loop and do your double crochet and into your back loop, and again, and that is how simple this round is. You're going to do your double crochets into every stitch all the way around, just working into the back loop. Pause the video and meet me back at the stitch marker. Okay, so I have come to the end of this round. I'm just going to do my last stitch and then join my rounds with a slip stitch, and then mark my last stitch again as always. And what we're going to do now is just super simple, chain 1 and you are going to double crochet all the way around into both loops, just in every single stitch. So it's literally just one double crochet into both loops, the back and the front loop, and it's literally as simple as that. So the pattern actually says to work up until you have the edge measuring 3 3/4 inches or 9.5 centimeters. For me, that is around 11 rows. So go ahead, pause the video, please make sure that you are using your stitch markers correctly, but pause the video, work your sides, and then meet me back in just a moment. Okay, so we're now on this section of the pattern because I've done my rounds of double crochet and I've worked it to 3 3/4 inches or 9.5 centimeters. Now I'm going to move on to this next section. So it says we're going to chain 1, working from the left to the right instead of right to the left. Obviously, if you're doing the left-handed version, then you're just going to flip that around. And it says work 1 reverse single crochet, which is double crochet in each double crochet around and join. So we're just basically going to do the crab stitch or the reverse double crochet. So I'll demonstrate that to you now. So here is my basket. If I just grab my ruler, you can see it's like just over 9 centimeters, just under 3 3/4 inches, and that's fine for me. I'm just going to leave it as that, so you can choose to whichever, but this has worked out to be 11 rows. So what we're going to do now is I've joined the last round and I've put my stitch marker into the next stitch because we're going to be working our way backwards. And what you want to do here, you might want to turn your work onto the side. We're going to insert our hook into that stitch which is behind the one that we're working in. Grab the yarn and pull it through, and then yarn over and pull through both of those stitches. Go to the next one, insert the hook, grab the yarn and pull it through, and grab the yarn and pull it through. This is going to be a little bit more tricky, but just take your time with it and you'll soon pick up the method. So you have to kind of twist your hook round, insert it into that stitch, grab the yarn, pull it through, and then yarn over, pull through those loops on the hook. So you can see it's starting to make this really nice like wave of a stitch. So go ahead and do that all the way around the top of your basket. Pause the video and meet me back in your last stitch and I'll show you how to finish off. Okay, so I've just worked my way all the way around and it creates this beautiful finish to the basket. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to insert my hook into the base of this first stitch, grab the yarn and pull it through all of the stitches, tighten that up a little bit, and then chain 1. You're going to take your scissors and snip off the yarn, and then you can pull that out. And then all that's left to do is to weave in your ends, and you want to weave them in on the inside of the basket. So there you go, that is the nesting basket tutorial. I really hope that you've enjoyed this. I'll leave all the links in the description box below of where you can find the pattern and the yarn details as well. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you aren't subscribed already, and I shall see you again in my next video. Bye!